Welcome to this lesson. We'll look at the while loop. In the previous lesson, we discussed the for loop, this one. So in this lesson, we'll look at the while loop. The while loop is a bit different to the for loop. They're both iteration, but the difference is that the while loop, it persists as long as a condition exists. It keeps on looping till that condition finishes, or maybe a solution is found, or the user kind of disrupts it or stops it. So it keeps on looping and continuing. So it's possible to have an infinite loop, depending on the kind of program you're writing. So let's remove this here. So I'll just type this code here that we are going to use to test this. So I'll say count. So count equals 0. So this is just initializing a count. So I'll say, we'll now write while count is less than 10. Remember the comparison operators we looked at earlier in the previous class. So while count is less than 10, print count. So we should print count. And then I want it to increment this. Then count should be equal to count plus 1. So I will explain what this is all about. So what I'm saying here is that I'm initializing this variable count to be equal to 0. So that's the initial value it has. So I'm saying while this value of count is less than 10, you should print count. After printing what the value of count is, you should not add count. You should add 1 to that value of count and then run the loop again. If it is still true that the value is less than 10, you should print it out and then add 1 to it and then print it out again. So you keep on doing that till we get to a point where this is no longer true. You can see there is a semicolon here as before, and then there's an indentation to show that these two lines are part of this while loop. So let's run it and see what happens. So as you can see, it printed 0, which was the initial value, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 9. So after 9, the next value was 10, and 10 is not true anymore because 10 is not less than the value of count. 10 is not less than 10. So that's what we get. So that is the while loop. There's another way of writing this increment, an easier way or a more efficient way in Python. So writing count is equal to count plus 1. You could just say count plus equals is a more compact way. And well, you could write it this way or the other way, whichever one you prefer. But if you run it, it still gives you the same thing actually. So you see, it gave you the same answer as before. So you could write it, the increment, you can make it this way, or you could make it the previous way you did. So as I mentioned earlier, it's possible to have an infinite loop. And how is that possible? So if we do not increment, let's assume we do not give this increment. Let's just delete this. And I just say the value of count is equal to 0, for example. And I say while count is less than 10, print count. And I don't tell you what to do after that. So of course, it's going to always be less than 10 because 0 is always less than 10. This loop will keep on looping. The while loop will keep on going and going and going and going because there is no end in sight. There is no endpoint assigned to it, coded into the program. So it did not tell it when to stop. So if you try this, we'll see what happens. So you see, it's just printing 0 continuously. 0, 0, 0 continuously. It will never stop. It's an infinite loop. So because we did not specify, or there is no end in sight, there is no way it's going to converge to. So the only way to stop this now is just to come here and press this stop button. So it has stopped the process to exit it. So this is the while loop. It's very important in programming. It's one of the most important aspects of it. So we could also, okay, let's get back to what we had before. So at the end of the loop, we could say print call done, for example. So this to show you that when the loop ends, you can have something outside the loop. So you see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then all done. So the all done was out of the loop. If it was in the loop, as we saw with the for loop, it will print all done each time the loop runs. Well, if that's what we wanted, we could have it like that. But in this case, we just wanted it to print all done when we have finished looping. So we could, please, if there are any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll try to answer as much as possible. We are going to now put together everything we've learned in the next few exercises and write some exciting programs. Thank you very much.